All right, let's kick off. Welcome everyone to another webinar on how to master LinkedIn. Today we will talk about a research that our data science team did about the 6 habits of the most experienced LinkedIn advertisers. We analyzed more than 20,000 ads, comparing how the most experienced advertisers craft their copy and how the least experienced advertisers write theirs. So the idea is that you can get practical ideas on how to implement these 6 best practices that the most seasoned B2B advertisers use. All right, so let's go into how we analyze the ads. Okay, we took a sample of 13,000 ads and we analyzed different parts of the ads. We analyzed the copy itself, like the image that is highlighted here. We analyzed the text, the images, and what are the key areas that we analyzed there? We analyzed the length of the ad copy, the emoji, the use of questions, the use of hashtags, the style of the call to action, the reading level, and finally how the ad copy was designed to make it successful. So let's discuss now what are the key findings that we found in this research. Adrian is with me here. He is our customer success VP of customer success for AdSact, and he will explain how experienced advertisers like our clients are running their ads. So welcome, Adrian, and all over to you.
Thanks, Joaquin. Thanks for the introduction. So we just got 6 different things that we just want to talk through in the document. I'm going to use the document live, so you can see that, and obviously you can download that from LinkedIn over the coming days. But so starting with something which I guess a lot of people who are in advertising and kind of are used to writing copy would probably know, but from the analysis that we did, it's not, it isn't necessarily best practice everywhere. So it's good to call this one out right up front, which is keeping the copy short and sharp. So good use of language, and we'll come back to that a bit later. But good use of language to get your message across succinctly. So here's a good example. So Trustpilot, just a short piece of copy that explains exactly what it is they want you to understand about their proposition. And we're not seeing the full ad here, but you kind of saw an example on a previous page where you've got an image under that and then a call to action again, which we'll come back to. So if you look at that and then you compare it to this, obviously very different. So in a few seconds, I've got an understanding of what Trustpilot are offering and what they want me to do. Here, I've got to really take the time to read this and understand it. And this is a valuable service these guys are offering, and they obviously felt the need to kind of go into some detail to explain it, but at the top of the ad is not the place to do that. And that was borne out by the research that this is more common with those people who are advertising less and appear to have less experience. And this is
quite evident.
Yeah,
the difference between one and the other. Yeah.
I did read this earlier as we went through the document to make sure that I did understand what it was, and it's an important thing, but it's not the right place to. It's not the right place and the right time for somebody to get to that level of detail, right? The opening punchy language pulls you in, and then you get to this detail. So so I think a lot of people would just gloss over this because it's too much to take in an advertising context, right? So that's the first one. Keep it short and sharp to get your message across. And again, we're fighting for people's attention, right? That's we know we've got so little time to grab people's attention when they're in this kind of LinkedIn advertising environment or any advertising environment. So got to be really really punchy. Yeah, use of hashtags, right? So obviously this is something that's been around for a long time now, and can be important in certain contexts to highlight a point to be found, in searches and in social context, or particularly if it's a hashtag that's behind a movement or a kind of a trend.
Exactly.
Using it here in this example, where I've got a whole load of hashtags that, I guess if you know this business and you know this market, they might make sense to you. But they seem like some of them seem quite strange hashtags to have, and there's way too many there, right? So having something that is part of a campaign where you want that keyword to be found, or you believe that keyword is going to be important in a search environment, great. But this many, I think,
yeah. And it's important to make a difference with organic posts, because in organic, definitely hashtags can increase your visibility, but with paid ads, it doesn't. If you search for a certain hashtag, you will only see organic posts. You won't see the ads coming up. So if you think that putting hashtags in your ads will give more visibility and you will kind of go over the algorithm and paying less, that's not the case. However, you can use it to highlight something in the text. For example, as you mentioned, if you are supporting a movement or something with your ads, right?
So it's more that you want to connect to that topic rather than it being used as a search mechanism, right? So yeah, totally agree. So we found that again, experienced advertisers aren't doing this. The less experienced advertisers more frequent see hashtags in the ad itself, and some of these ads actually look more social post orientated than they do advertising orientated, really. This was an interesting one, right? I thought this was a good one, because go easy on the emojis, right? So that's become part of common culture, and particularly in a social posting environment, right? So you see it, and it's it's great fun. It's fun, if you're communicating with friends, you're communicating on Facebook, wherever it is, hashtag, whether it's WhatsApp, it portrays emotion. It's good fun. But in an advertising context, what we found is that most experienced advertisers don't use it, right? Because although it can add, and this is an example where Alika are a strong advertiser, and they use them very sparingly. This is one example we found where they had used it, and I thought this was quite interesting. It's the beginning of the text and kind of brings it to life a little bit, but it's sparingly used, and it's not at the end kind of as a way of portraying kind of emotions so much as brightening this up. So we found it's less used by the experienced advertisers, or used very sparingly, but more common with less experienced advertisers. And I think in an ad context, again, if you're trying to get your message across, is emojis the right way to do that? I'm not sure. If you look at this very clean, very visual ad, would an emoji add anything here? No, it probably just distracts from the core message, and just letting the image do the talking. So a good example, the emotion comes through that image, right? That emotion, people sitting down, sharing a meal, doesn't need any additional highlights. So focusing on that, getting your emotion across through the image, more so than through an emoji. So so I think the more experienced people watching or reading this document would know this, right? So 101 of marketing and advertising in particular, let's have a clear call to action. What do we want people to, if they engage with our content, what is it we want people to do? Let's make that super clear. So I guess this one didn't surprise me, but I think it's interesting to call out, because what the subtle difference here is, you could say, be part of, join us, and discover. You could say that they are call to actions. But what we found is, in this research, is that the call to actions between the more experienced advertisers don't leave any don't leave it to chance, right? It's super clear, right? So download now, sign up, super clear. Whereas be part of, join us, discover, nice language, but actually it's not as direct. And again, when we look at the time people are engaged with an ad and the moment in which they take that action, let's just be direct about it. That's what the research shows us. Let's be super clear what we want people to do. So if they do engage, they're not only just the language there, but actually also so is the imagery, basically. So yeah, we're if you look back at the previous ads, so the Just Eat one and the Trustpilot one earlier in the document, the call to action button is super clear as well. Download, sign up. I mean, it's really super clear. So yeah.
And it comes back to the first point, which is be concise with your message. People only have a microsecond to read your ads. So if you are not clear with the call to action, most probably they will read it, they will see, they will get an impression, but not a call to action, not an action, right?
Yeah, so I thought this was good in that we used Claude, so large language model, help us determine the emotion that was being pulled through the copy and through the imagery, and so we asked about happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, surprise, and curiosity. And again, for more experienced people on the call, and certainly the more experienced advertisers on LinkedIn, that need to pique people's curiosity is really works well. And that's important.
It's quite surprising. I think it's a massive, as the text said before, it's a massive 84% of their ads are designed to appeal curiosity. Is quite a lot.
Yeah, no, again, because asking a question, appealing to curiosity, suggests people, it pulls them into taking an action, right? So again, it comes, if you link that, so you link curiosity, this, how do I find the answer to a strong call to action? Those two things in a very short period of time enable people to make a decision. Oh, that is interesting. I want to find out more, and then there's a clear call to action. So yeah, so really, really important that people take this approach based on the research. And here's some good example, right? Still paying for your business bank account. Well, I guess most people would expect they are doing, and then okay, well, why not have it pay instead? That really, can that happen? So it's piquing my curiosity, and it's also in a way suggesting something that's quite different from my expectations. So that's pulling me in. And there's a strong call to action on that ad as well. That not that we're seeing that, but on the whole ad. And then with Trustpilot, again, a clear question being asked, linked to a strong proposition. So again, piquing my curiosity, pulling me in. So really two really good examples.
And finally,
being precise in your language. And I know we internally looked at this one and debated it quite a bit, didn't we? Because it was interesting in terms of the looking at the language level. I can't remember what was the terminology back in the reading level. I think
was the reading level. Yes,
what we looked at. And so it was clear that the more experienced advertisers, as we talked about at the beginning, had concise wording, so that they were using less characters than kind of more experienced advertisers, but also the language was clean, easily understood. So we talked about here unambiguous, and where needed, used words and terminology that spoke to their audience.
Mm-hmm.
So that so it's okay to use specialist language and industry terminology if those are the people you're reaching to. Now, if one word that's industry specific replaces 4 words, then use it. Because it speaks to the people that you want to reach. So thinking carefully about this, and there's been a lot of research on clean language, so getting your message across in a way that it is understood, it is unambiguous. So this is important. Paying attention, is a good example, but paying attention to this, and actually is probably one of the more difficult things to get right. You're not using a lot of words. How do I get a message across? How do we make sure people understand it, and from this brief bit of text really really clear about what we're offering?
A tip here, there is an app which is very useful, which is Hemingway app, that gives you you put the text that you are writing and gives you the complexity of the language that you are using, and what they recommend is that you should be targeting a 6th grade boy or girl. That level of simplicity is what you should be using in your ads. It's quite surprising.
Yeah, but I think it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because it's simplicity, but not we looked at not childlike language. It's not, you're not dumbing it down. It's not that. It's about the right words in the written in the right way that gets the message across that people can understand it. So I think it is interesting, this kind of making sure that you take the time and effort to get your message across in the right way. Cool. So really, I think really I was fascinated to see this research, and for those of us who experience some of it, you'll kind of get, but for a lot of us, and certainly me, there were a number of things I took away from this. So I hope people also benefit from the document. Just final one, it's a full ad here, which I think kind of takes into account a lot of the things that we've talked about. So you've got a really clear call to action around this very specific report. So it's talking to a particular audience.
No hashtags, no emojis.
Emojis. Clear image. The call to action is in this ad is like all over the place, right? Download free global report. So that's right up there. Then an explanation, again, using language that the audience would understand. Like, so, consumer behavior, market expertise, strategic recommendations, it's talking to people who want to digest research, right? So it's super clear. Then the main body's got an image related to the topic. We've got, again, talking about the food and drink. So being very specific about what it is. Download now, get your free copy here, download button. So a really good example of an ad that stands out, and we know they had great results with this as well. So really good piece of LinkedIn advertising.
So what's next? What's the next step, Adrian?
So I mean, just to round off, where we think the next step is, and what plays an important role. We've talked about calls to action. We've talked about the need to get a message across quickly to people and for people to understand that message. Now, that is much easier to do if you're talking to the right people, right? If your image is in front of the right people to start with and the right companies. So you can spend a lot of money putting out content that has all those good things and pulls people into that content. Of course, as you pull them in, they spend money, right? So they're spending your money. You're spending your budget by clicking it because you've got a good ad calling on the right things. But if the wrong people are clicking, that's no good. So, our business is about helping people understand who they should be targeting, and as in which companies they should be targeting, and then using LinkedIn to identify the people within those companies. And using those audiences, which is a very sophisticated lookalike model, so helping people take the customers they've got today and using that information in a very sophisticated way to identify the companies that are most likely to work with them. And if you use that in your advertising activity, you significantly improve the quality of the companies and the people that come into your sales pipeline. So we would, you can do some of this without working with a company like us, but if you're spending a lot of money on LinkedIn, working with us or with a company like us, but working with us specifically around audience creation will drive significant ROI. So if you're interested in understanding a bit more about that, we run something called an audience audit, which helps us understand what you've done on LinkedIn over the past 12 months. And, if we very quickly and easily produce a report that we can then take you through, share those findings. So that's something that's free, and we'd recommend people do. And that'll help us understand just how much impact the right level of targeting can have. So yeah.
And then you can apply on top. Everything starts with understanding your audience, and then you can put on top all the techniques that we are suggesting here that comes from this research and from your best practices. And of course, we are very keen to hear your thoughts on this. Please let us know in the comments in YouTube and LinkedIn if you agree with what we found in the research, if yes or not. We are very keen to hear your comments. So thank you so much, Adrian. Thank you so much to all the people listening in our YouTube channel and LinkedIn. Thank you so much, and see you soon. And we will release this today, by the way, so you can read this document.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.